Welcome to the 32081, a podcast where we cover life in the St. Johns County area.
I love being a part of such a great community.
If you're looking for the latest events, school information, local sports, restaurants, real estate news, and more, you've come to the right place. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
The show starts now with your hosts, The Hardy Party.
From the Hardy Party, this is the Todd, and we continue our series talking to coaches about training right here in the 32081 area, as well as the greater St. Johns and Jacksonville area. And I am very proud to have a coach on the line with me now. He's coached my son, great trainer, great guy. He owns the Solution Dynamics, also known as TSD Athletes, also the Little League football organization TSD Bears. He is a graduate of Coastal Carolina University, where, Coach, you were also a two-time all-conference performer, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, sir.
Coach Ronnie Mason. Coach Mason, thank you so much for joining us here on the podcast tonight.
Man, I appreciate you having me, man. That's definitely sounds like a lot of work the way you just explained it all. But, to each his own, to much is given, much is required. So I'm in love with it all. Coach, I'm going to start off talking about something, but I've got a little bit of a bone to pick with you. You're training my son, okay? I know you're a proud guy and stuff like that. You don't tell me about your book. I have to find out about it on my own. And that's one thing I wanted to talk to you about because, first of all, fantastic job. It's a great book. I know you say it's for athletes, young and old, but I also want to throw in there, it's great for parents because I read it. It's an easy read. It doesn't matter if you're in 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th grade, or if you're a high school or college or even an adult. It just brings you back to the basics. But the name of the book that you wrote was Student Athletes Equipped for Life. And I was wondering if you could give us an overview of your thought process when you wrote this book and put it all together. Yes, sir. So let me be transparent. So going through school, I can honestly tell you from front to back, I probably only read like 4 books all the way. That's up until college, right? But once I became an entrepreneur, I started reading a lot more. And, obviously I had to expand my knowledge because I was doing something that I've never, was destined to do at that point. I didn't feel like it was a thing. But I've always had a passion of, earning my own money. Like I was a kid that was selling candy in school. I was selling shoes in college. Like I was getting haircuts in college. I was selling DVDs in college. So like it was one of those things. Like I always knew there was a natural hustle in there, and that could come from family economics and stuff like that. But in the grand scheme of the book, man, the thought process started with life after football, and a lot of people that don't go down that journey don't understand that it could be a scary place. Because at one point you was affiliated with something, you were accustomed to doing something every day. The structure was there, the discipline was there, the maintenance was there, the stature was there, like the status quo was there, and then it's gone. Like time you graduate high school, if you don't get a scholarship, hey, you're a regular student now. What does that look like? What stuff is this kid gonna now get into? And a lot of parents fail to realize that, like, what he might get into might be, why are you doing this? You never did this before. Because he didn't have time, because he was a student athlete. But now it's the college athletes as well. In your city or state that you play in, you're low-key a celebrity. Before NIL, right? NIL has made these guys rich celebrities, really right? But now, at one point, you was low-key a celebrity. You was the most famous person on that team or in the locker room or whatever. And then you graduate and you don't have a plan B, meaning going to the plan A was going to the NFL. Plan B, I don't know. Now you got to go back home and live on your mama's couch, but you was just one of the guys. And now you have to figure out what's next for me. And the thing that I want everybody to understand that, like, you're equipped for whatever. You just got to figure out your next passion. You got to figure out your gift. You got to figure out what did you do great as a person? What makes you you? What did you learn from your journey? And if you apply that right away, you're going to be all right. You're equipped for everything. Well, listen, being a father, being a husband, taking care of bills, you got responsibilities. That sounds like practice. That sounds like meeting. That sounds like film. That sounds like weight room. That sounds like travel. Like the same stuff that we just went through as a student athlete, you're equipped for it on the back end too. I think a lot of college football coaches and high school coaches, they all talk God, family, football. So even when you just look at that right there, that's almost equipped to being a great man. But now if you put all this other stuff into play, waking up in the morning, working out, taking care of your body, keeping your health right, eating better than you should, than the average, you should be equipped for life. So I think that's the deeply rooted thought process right there.
And Coach, the one thing is that I really liked in chapter 3 where you talked about the helmet, and you point out 4 things here, and this kind of hit me also as an adult. That's why I'm saying this is not just for the student athletes, but for the parents and some of the adults to kind of remind you about this kind of stuff. But your 4 points, you say, be smart about the decisions you make because they can be costly. Be smart when it comes to your finances and how you invest. Be smart about what you put in your body, and be smart about the deals you accept and what team you're going to choose. I'm starting to think that applies to everybody. It's a good lesson to learn young, but it's also, like I said, I pick up this book and you look at it and you've got all this stuff about invest in cryptocurrency or invest in this stock, or what job do I want? Do I want to switch teams? So it's a really great book you put together, and I strongly suggest everyone pick it up because I know I've read it, and I'm going to put a link to it on here, but you did a great job with this, and I love the quotes too. The quotes from all the different people. It's awesome.
Yeah, man. It was like, I had to figure out a way, how do I keep that kid that might be, he's a scatterbrain. So at the end of the day, I think, when it came down to the way that I laid out the chapters, with the quote, and I was trying to use a celebrity on one side and then a famous athlete on the other side, right? So like these are 2 different walks of life, right? This person was a regular person, this person was an athlete. So now the person that's not an athlete, they can relate to, but then at the end of the day, everybody knows who these famous athletes are in the book. And then I also have a picture, like every 3 or 4 pages to reel your mind right back in, right before you thought it was too many words. Strategically, I put a picture right there so I can get you to think about what's actually about to happen in the next part of the chapter. So
Coach, you even threw Winston Churchill in here. The price of greatness is responsibility. I was like, check that out.
Man, listen, it is though. Like,
it is,
you can take care of all your responsibilities and manage your priorities, dude. You really don't have no problems. You should have an 800 credit score, and you should be able to write your own check, bro. Like,
that's right.
Honestly, if you take care of all your responsibilities, man, there's no other thing that you should be destined than greatness. Like, simple as that. So it's, a lot of people will look at you like, oh man, you just don't miss the mark. And, if you miss the mark, that's technically a sin. So if you don't miss the mark, hey, you living a pretty good life, my dude. So, yeah.
Well, listen, before we move on to your training, just a reminder to everybody, and I'll put the link on Amazon to buy the book. It's Student Athletes Equipped for Life, for athletes young and old, and it's by Coach Ronnie Mason, who's with us, so be sure to pick it up. It's a great book. It's an easy read, and I know I keep picking up every now and then just to kind of look at it and remind me of stuff, so everyone's going to enjoy that book. So, Coach Mason, let's move over to your training, because, this kind of, leads in from your book in your first chapter when you talk about, a student athlete being responsible and being goal driven and being disciplined, which I know those are things that you really bring out your training that you do here with TSD. So your training, one thing I think is interesting for a lot of people, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that they kind of look at training and they kind of box themselves in. And what I mean by that is they say, oh, well, Coach Mason, he played football or he trains football players or whatnot. But training, especially the training that you do for all your different ages, it's for anybody. It doesn't matter what sport you play, or even if you play a sport, get kids out there, get them moving around. And it's really for anybody. Would you agree with that?
I would wholeheartedly, but I don't always get that receptive. Just because, when TSD was originally created, it was all football. The logos had footballs in them. I was only doing football camps. I only coached football. Honestly, and then I was actually the very first head coach of an ABA basketball team in St. Augustine, the St. Augustine Glory, who was ran by Brad Clark. But a lot of people don't know that. It was a time frame where, basketball was that thing that I love more than football. And I just got to a statistical thing. I've always been a thinker, and I've always processed things very quickly. And I realized I was only going to be 6'3". And LeBron James was 6'8", and Steph Curry was 6'3", and I played center in high school, but I played point guard on my AAU team, so it was like, I'm not going pro with this one. So I played every position in football, just about. Only position I can say I didn't play from a actual position was offensive line and cornerback. I played every position other than that. A lot of people from in Northeast Florida, they don't know my resume because it all trails from North Carolina. But we can ask just about anybody in North Carolina that was playing in those time frames, like, yo, what kind of athlete was Ronnie Mason? And, it was just one of those things. And I tell you, like, even from an athletic standpoint and going into the training, it's like, one thing that I feel like I overlooked at a young age. My grandma used to make me cut her grass when everybody was outside playing basketball. She would come out, Ronnie, did I tell you to cut the grass? So I come running, and I ran while doing it, right? So like I'm trying to do it as fast as I can. So I'm like a sprint, trying to stay in that straight line, turning that thing, sprint, stay in that straight line, turning that thing. And most people, they struggle pushing lawnmowers normally. So just imagine a kid that's 12, 13, 14, and he's pushing it. And I didn't start playing football to 10th grade, which is another thing. But it's one of those things that, like, my athletic ability was enhanced. And then there was another year where a street sweeper came through on my grandma's street, and it made a ditch in front of my basketball goal that I put on a light pole. So in order for me to do a great layup and land properly and not break my ankle, I had to jump over the ditch and land on the other side of the ditch to do a layup. So I was already doing explosion training at that time too. So before I knew what a skater was as a trainer, I never know I was doing skaters this whole time. Was the reason. That's one workout I love teaching, because of the balance, because of the power, because of the stability, because of the core. All the things that I focus on when it comes to training is I've just switched the name. I call it locomotive training. And, how do you become more explosive, more precise? More
I love
efficient?
that name, by the way. I love it. I saw it. I was like, locomotive training.
I'm a definition person. I'm a definition person, man. That's one thing that I used to do as a kid. I used to get the encyclopedia, I find a new word, and I let it rip. Like, my mind would just go crazy. It's like, who would think the Solution Dynamics would be a training company? But when you think about it, we're trying to provide a solution for a dynamic future. Like, we are, whatever this kid is trying to endure, we're trying to help him find a solution to do it. Either he need to get stronger, he need to become more explosive, he need to become more knowledgeable in his position, or he need to become faster. So at the end of the day, we're just trying to provide a solution. If we can figure out the dynamics, we're good.
And the other interesting thing that I really like about the Solution Dynamics is that your training, you work in some fun stuff too. I mean, I've seen the kids come out of your training. They are dripping with sweat. So, I mean, yes, probably if you weighed their clothes afterwards, they're probably 10 pounds wet. I mean, they're just dying, right? But you do a lot of interesting things, not just by the name, but like I know that sometimes you take them out to run the dunes at the beach, or, depending on what the training is going and stuff like that. So it really seems like you make it enjoyable or challenging for these athletes when they come and they train with you. It seems like, to me at least.
Yeah, boring is boring, so I try not to keep it boring. I had one kid that's, on his first month, and he was like, Coach, so are we doing the same thing we did the other day? Nah, it'll never be the same thing. You might do some of the same movement, but it'll never be the same thing. I'm focusing on something totally different. So, then doing the beach stuff, I love doing beach workouts. I'm ready for it to get warm consistently, because those Saturday mornings where nobody really had a plan, but if you go out there and then the parents go out there, and next thing you know, they stay out there for a little bit longer after the workout, and that's part of life. But a lot of people don't take advantage of utilizing that dynamic right there, meaning the sand, on how it makes athletes better. It teaches your feet to do different things, and then your ankles, you don't have ankle injuries. I have one running back that I used to train, CJ Beasley. He played at Coastal Carolina. He just graduated from Georgia State, actually preparing for the NFL combine or NFL draft, I should say. But he was one of those guys that had ankle injuries when I first met him. That was the thing that kept him off the field his first year and a half there. And we started doing beach workouts, and next thing you know, he jumping over people in freaking football games. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So if you don't know CJ Beasley, just type it in on YouTube and you'll see him. The myrtle hurdle is what they call it, but he literally cleared somebody and he landed it, and it's like, oh my God. But the dynamics of the sand, it does a lot of different things for that lower extremity for sure.
Coach, what's the best way for people to get information about their particular age group, kids, what the group's offered with dates? Because I know you have a schedule up, but I wanted to leave it up to you, the best way for them to find out, what's available, and also how to get in touch with you about possibly scheduling a session with you.
Yeah, the easiest way is definitely through Instagram. But I do have a Facebook page that does the exact same thing. But Instagram, I'm constantly posting and trying to stay as active as possible. Now I have some interns going to help me with that. And that's at TSD Athletes. It's Tom, Sarah, David Athletes. And, we're available. You'll see all the other pages connected with it. I try to post a schedule where we're going to be at. And we have a couple different facilities in Jacksonville area that we perform out of. I love being out in the parks and stuff like that. But the reason why I've invested into facilities is because, we offer a monthly service. You know what I mean? We probably train more consistent than some, not all, but we have the availability to do so, being inside and changing the schedule. One week we out and we focus on speed. The next week we might be in the weight room, and some guys, I can train you in the position, right? But if you're not powerful enough, fast enough, or explosive enough, you still won't be able to do your job well on the field. And your coaches, you got good hands. He uses his hands well, but he ain't strong. Like, that's a whole nother thing. So I try to make sure I take care of the whole athlete, and that's at TSD Athletes, and that's just the way that we train.
Well, I'll tell you, your facility where you do work out inside, I will tell people, do not judge a book by its cover. Because you'll pull up there and it looks like a warehouse. Even if you walk in the front door, I tell people, it's like, you think, where am I? Am I in the right place? And you walk in the back and you just have done the most beautiful job back there. I mean, with the turf and the weights and everything else like that. So like I tell people, I said, yes, you're in the right place. Just hold on a second. You'll be fine. They'll open up the doors in the back. It's a beautiful facility. Beautiful facility.
Yes, sir. B3 Better is the space that we utilize. And, I'm truly grateful for that relationship and what we've done in the past together. What we continue to bring together, the things that they're doing in the community as well. They have a combine coming up. I don't know if this will be aired by February 2nd, but they're doing a combine for athletes, just the ones that need to know their time before they go to these college camps and things of that nature, because that's a huge thing. Everybody thinks they run a 4.4 just because they can blur somebody in today's world, just because you head top somebody. But just because you head top don't mean you got a 40-inch vertical. Right. That's just timing sometimes. Your hand-eye coordination might be a little bit better. And it's those small dynamics that make an athlete all conference or D1, honestly, to be quite honest.
Well, Coach, I appreciate you joining us, because one of the big reasons why we do this show is for the community. And of course, I've gotten to know you and I've seen the athletes you train, including my son's worked out with you. So, I truly encourage people to go out there. We'll put the links down in the show description to go out and visit you on Instagram. And also, to get that book off of Amazon, because it's a great book. We appreciate what you do. It's a great program, and I don't think any parent or student athlete is going to be disappointed with the results they get or the enjoyment they have when they work out with you. So thank you for all you do, and thank you for joining us on the podcast tonight.
Yes, sir. I definitely appreciate it.
And once again, thank you to Coach Ronnie Mason for joining us. Be sure to check out his book that we will leave a link to in the description, Student Athletes Equipped for Life, as well as the solution dynamics for any of your training needs. Once again, for the 32081, I'm the Todd, and thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to the 32081. We hope you enjoyed today's episode.
I love the show, guys. You're awesome.
Please don't forget to subscribe to the show so you can join us for the next episode.
I never miss an episode. It's the best.
Until next time, take care.